So we had a gap of 1 week. Let me share my screen. You pick your topics. We can talk about the topic instead of me. We have data unloading, network policy, data sharing. What we'll do is, let's talk about data unloading. And data sharing. No bypass. Let us go one by one. I'm stopping the screen share for a minute. Let me get the workbook. So any questions before we start?
No, Satish, from my end, no.
No, Satish.
Okay. Share back my screen. Let us see how for this training what I'll be using is, as usual, how I have used previously to time travel. I'll be using the files that are there already in the public domain. Already we created the ingest data database last time. In that we already created the customer table, or let me drop and recreate. I'm creating the table. So once we create the table, the next step is we create the stage. So when we create a stage using an external source, I use the URL. I have to tell the steps. Let us see what are the steps for data loading first. For data loading, we create database. Then we create table. Then we create stage. We use topic. If it is a internal, through the internal stage, we use put command. Let me do it for probably for internal, so that it's a revision for you people. Internal stage. If you want, optional is you can create a file format as well. If you don't have a file format, you can use it using a copy command. These are the steps for internal stage. Now data loading through external stage. We create table, we can create a stage, but we directly copy. we don't use a put command, because when you stage itself, you stage it with the URL. Then there is something called Snowflake, or this is for internal stage data load. Now data unloading. Unloading is also similar, reverse process. Let us see for the local first. We have a database, use database, use table. Then we create stage. Once we create stage, what we do is we use a copy command to load the data into the stage. We use copy into customer. Sorry, not this is a not this. Let's just stop the screen share. Let me bring the data unloading. What I'll be doing is I'll be using the data from, let's say, do I have any customer? Yeah. Let me use the same data. Ingested data. Let me use customer. Let us create a file form. I'm going to use a database. I'm going to use the table. I've set the database to ingest data, and I'll be using the customer table which we loaded previously. That I wanted to unload. Now what I am going to do? First, let us check what data is there in the customer table. There is no data in the customer. What we'll do? CSV table also no data. What I will do? We will okay. There is a data in prod here. Let me use that. There are 1,000 records. What I'll be doing? I want to extract this particular data in a, let's say, delimiter of pipe. So I'm going to create a file format. I'm going to create a file format of type CSV and field delimiter pipe. This I'm giving a name my CSV envelope. So I created a file format. Now I'm going to create a stage. This stage, when I'm creating, I'm going to say use this file format. Either it's an optional step. Either if you want, you can use the file format here. Or when you're copying, you can use it there. Next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy into the stage. Previously, when we were loading the data, we copy into table. Now we are copying the data into the stage. Copy into whatever is the stage I created from whatever is the table. So you wanted to load from the customer table. Now these 1000 records are unloaded into the stage. Now if you want to check the data from the stage, let us select the data from the stage and see. $1. There is first records coming. How many? Like that 1000 records. Why there are only $1 for one record? Because when I'm staging itself, I mentioned use this file format. If I haven't created this, what would have happened? Whole of the row would have come together. Once we copied the data into the stage, if you want to get it into a local system, then you should use a get command, like put command. In order to use a get command, it doesn't work in the UI. So you need to load through the SnowSQL. Let me log. Let me use a database dot underscore. Now I'm going to use a get command to unload the data. Let me use this get command. It says the local path itself does not exist. Let me unload the data into C drive Snowflake unload. C drive Snowflake unload. I'm going to get the data from the stage. How I'm able to determine that is the stage? If you are able to list the data from the stage, our stage is nothing but this particular. This is the stage we created. You can see there is one file. So to this, I'm going to get it. The same stage, my unload stage, unload, and this is the file. Where I wanted to get that file, get it into my C drive, Snowflake and unload. Right now, if you see, there is no data. Once you use this command, we copied the data from the table to the stage. From the stage, we are downloading to our local. By default, this will be in Gunzip. Let's say I don't have a Gunzip in my system. You don't want the data to be. By default, it will, whenever you load the data from your system to Snowflake, or whenever you unload the data from Snowflake to the local, by default, it is compressed into Gunzip. You don't want this compression. When you are creating a file format itself, we can mention. Let me redo it without having a compression. So I'm saying create a file format. I'm replacing. Previously, I mentioned CSV and delimiter as pipe. Here I'm going to specify that compression is none. This is the one I'm going to mention. Else by default it is unzipped. Now what I'm going to do? I change the file. File form. What I'll do? Let me recreate the stage with the file format parameter I newly passed. Now I created the stage. Because the stage is newly created, the old data would have been gone. What you have to do, again you copy the data into the stage. Not sure why it is taking so much. You're able to hear me, right?
Satish, not able to hear your voice.
One second. How is it now?
Yes, now we
Yeah,
can
now,
able.
Now it is
now
fine,
what
right?
is
Yes. Yes.
Now we can see that there are rows unloaded. Now again rerun. Let me rerun this get command. Same command. Why is that it says? For that, what I'll do is let me list it. What is there in the stage? And this many unloads has come. What is the command I ran? My unload stage is given. Now, sorry, when I list it, I have so many files. Each file, May 1st. What is the length of the file? It's of 16 MB. If you observe, it is of 16 MB. But I got multiple files. For this 1000 records, I got how many files? Is there so much of data? I think there is so much of data in. Okay, I was unloading the data from. If you see, I am unloading the data from a different table. I did not unload the data from prod CRM. Okay. What I will do is, I'll come back when you have. Let us complete this and then we'll go first. If you see from the line item SF10 Snowflake sample data, let us see how much amount of data it has. SF10 line item, it has around 59 million records. It is of 1.68 GB. You can see it here. This 1.68 GB is being unloaded into multiple files. You can see it is being unloaded into multiple files. All in CSV format. By default, Snowflake segregates the data into 16 MB approximately. Around 16 MB is your default file size. Now use this to retrieve the data into your system. If you want, you can just bring one file, or if you want, we can bring multiple files. Yes. No need of downloading all this many. Now what I'll do is I'll just bring a sample. You see, there are n number of files. Let us see the count, how many number of files are there. You see this. There are 476 rows. Let us unload this into our load. That is why it took time for me. So you execute a command, something like this. I am going to, let me say, I wanted to bring only this. Let me unload this file into my load. Why is that I'm not able to unload? My unload data 079. I gave a wrong command. You see, it is downloading. 16 MB of data download. You can see, yes, download. Go and check. Yes, downloaded the data. Now you can have a question. What if I don't want this many files? I want, let's say, one file. I don't want this many files because by default, Snowflake is unloading into around 16 MB of data. Then you have a parameters to control it. What are the parameters? When you are copying itself, copying the data to the stage, what you can do, you can use single file is equal to true, and you wanted to, you can mention what is the maximum file size you want to unload. By default, this single is equal to false, and maximum file size by default is of 16 MB. Now you can control these parameters when you are copying. What we'll do, let us copy the data, or let me first delete the data from the stage. What is the stage? My unload stage unload. So 476 records are removed. What I will do, again I'll recopy the data from which table we were loading. We were loading the data from, let me use the same table. Now I'm mentioning unload this whole data into one single file, and maximum file size I'm giving some 49 GB. Now let me do the same process. Because it is of 1.5 GB, it is taking some time because we are using a X small warehouse. It will take some time. Meanwhile, you people are clear with this Excel sheet. What are the comments I am following?
Yes, Satish.
Yes, Satish.
Now, similarly, if you wanted to unload the data into an external,
Yes, Satish.
same thing. We'll create a stage. Now we directly copy into URL. Because when we create a stage with URL here. In this case, that's why we don't use a put command. Similarly, when you are unloading, you directly unload into the stage. As that comes up, still it is unloading. It is fine. Let us go to the documentation. Please stop the screen share. I hope I have this presentation. Just a second. I have. When we are loading the data, what we are doing? We were placing the files into a stage and then copying it. If it is from an external stage, we are copying into a table, either using a stage that refers the URL, or when you are copying itself, you can use the URL. Same thing we can do when unloading. When unloading, we did copy into the stage and we used a get command. For in external tables, we copy it into an external stage which refers the URL, or you can directly copy into the URL. Both the ways.
Satish, I have one question.
Yeah.
So when there is a use case that I'm doing actually currently, where I'm trying to load data from data services, SAP data services. I'm trying to load data from a data flow, basically a job. And in Snowflake, I have a table. So it should go via the stage, or directly I can point the job to the table.
So how we are loading
So
the data from SAP?
data services basically ETL, right? So I create a data store in the job. Sorry, basically the data flow. So the transformation that query, I will identify both source and target here. Source will be my ECC, which is basically an ERP in SAP. And from there, I will be putting the data in the data store. And from the data store, I will create a transformation and I will put it in the target. So target is my Snowflake.
Now, when you have an option to, now there are two options. Either create a stage pointing to the URL or copy it directly to the URL. Now, in the projects, we prefer this method. The reason is when you are doing a bulk load, okay, let's say your Amazon S3 bucket or whatever is your external storage has 50 files. You want to load or such a way, let's say a stage is not created by you. A stage is created by your team lead or whoever is higher authority or some other person who manages the data to bring the data into Snowflake. In few of the projects, what will happen? Those people will stage the data. Then other people, whoever are there in the project, can see the stage data. Most of the people, we will not give an access to directly to Amazon S3 bucket. When you have to use an Amazon S3 bucket, you have to either use along with the URL, you need to give storage integration or credentials. But if someone else doesn't want to share that kind of an information, that person can stage it or a separate batch that runs that stages the data. Then people in the project can take a look and copy the data from the stage. I'm talking about the use case. There are two ways, but most of the projects implement this scenario. And the other thing is directly people can, when it is staged, we know what files are being processed through the Snowflake. We can see how many files are there, how many files can be processed. But if something is there in Amazon S3, you will not be able to query it. Like here, once you stage it, you can query it. But here we will not be able to query it. Okay.
No,
You are able
no. The question I have is like, my question basically is like, I'm not able to load the data onto Snowflake, though I have data from the source through the job basically. So going forward, my next level of use case will be doing some transformation in the ETL, massaging the data, and then scheduling the job, and then trying to load it as and when we get the data from the source. So this is my next level use case. But in the first step itself, actually, I was not able to load the data into Snowflake.
But did you try staging it?
No, staging means in the transformation, like in the ETL tool itself, I'm not able to mention the stage actually. So I have the option of mentioning only the table where I can map the columns one to one.
Okay.
So I was not able to add the data stage, means the external stage as a target in my transformation.
Okay, that is
So
fine.
it was
If
throwing
you are
an
able
error
to
saying
map,
that
if you are able to map table to table, is that
yes.
tool has a Snowflake connection?
Yes, I have created the ODBC driver. I downloaded from the Snowflake Snow site only, and then I have created a ODBC driver. So in the ODBC driver, and the ODBC driver is also working fine. And the user ID that I have on the Snowflake is of developer user ID, which has both select and insert option also.
Okay.
The privileges are there.
Okay. In that case, directly the data should be loaded to the table.
No, it was throwing me a message saying that empty file got received. So I have an error log in the ETL where I can monitor the error log and trace it actually. So only thing is from the ETL tool, I could not debug actually because of some background configuration was not done properly for the debug. So, but when I try to execute the job ad hoc, right? So I receive only the message saying that empty file received. But when I do a query on the source, right, I see like 216 records are there in the source, and I did not do any transformation as just column to column mapping that I have done, and message was saying empty file received. So I was searching in the forum and some Snowflake related sites also, but there is no clear solution kind of thing or direction kind of thing being shown in any forums actually.
That is because that is if you are using an ETL tool, that is like table to table mapping only. There is no concept
Correct.
of file there. Whatever we are talking
Yes.
about is a file. Okay. For
Yes.
sure, I think I'm not sure what is the tool because I like how it works. But my understanding is, okay, you see the source, there is a data. But
Yes.
are you able to query the data using your ETL tool before even mapping?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So you are able to query in the ETL tool also. But when you map
Yes.
it
Yes.
to Snowflake, you are not able to.
Yeah, I that source to target mapping is done, and when I try to execute the job, right? So this is basically to test the job, whether the job is able to write the data into my target. So basically, that is the first use case. Second use case, as I said earlier, I will do some data massaging in the ETL, and then I will schedule the job and make sure, like, whenever there is a new record that is being added into the source, that trigger will be running, and then identifying only the delta and then loading it into the target. So this is my second use case actually.
Yeah, I got it. But the first one itself did not go right.
Yes.
My
Yes. Yes.
probably
Uh,
one thing is you need
Satish,
to, yeah.
yeah, I can share you the screenshot if you can continue with this next topic, because I might take some time.
Sure.
We can discuss after this also.
Share your screenshot. But my other way thing is, see, you are trying to map the table to table. What you do is
Correct.
bring the file and try loading the file from your ETL tool. Just check whether it works or not.